Hi, Damien and Marcus from 100 Not Out here. MP,
Yes, Damo?
we all know the importance of having a diary, but who wants a boring old day planner?
Not me.
Enter the Journey of Me,
Ta-da!
the incredible 8-month wellness journal designed especially for wellness peeps like you.
Yes, Damo, this beautiful 8-month wellness guide is filled with questions, planners, exercises, reflective notes and more. Endorsed by the Up For A Chat girls and loved the world over, the Journey of Me is a must-have if you're ready to live your best life for life.
To purchase your very own Journey of Me and receive a free set of inspirational postcards, simply enter the code COUCH at www.wellineu.com. That's www.wellineux.com.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Julie Tenner.
And I'm Bridget Wood. And today we are tackling the topic of life on your terms. But first, we are mentioning our sponsor for this podcast, who is Live Balance Grow Kinesiology. Now, kinesiology, if you're not familiar with it, is an energy medicine which taps into the meridians of the body and the subconscious to understand limiting beliefs and long-held views on things through muscle testing. So it's quite enlightening. It basically takes you back to earliest memories to understand what is kind of driving your life now unconsciously. It's quite powerful. But we had Rebecca there, didn't we?
And at the retreat. Yeah, I agree. I think that's absolutely what kinesiology is. I guess the way that I always explain it to my friends or clients is that it's emotion doesn't just disappear, right? So we know that it sits somewhere in our subconscious, and sometimes those belief systems or manifestations can literally have a physical manifestation or appearance or disconnection.
Create
or
symptoms.
Something within our body. And kinesiology is the way of accessing the emotion that's stored within the body. So it gives you a fantastic access without having to do it all mentally, right? Or potentially even emotionally. So we had Rebecca from Live Balance Grow Kinesiology, which is in Mornington, come to our retreat because I had found her as a practitioner for my daughter. Now, I had brought her initially because my daughter, who was 7, was still wetting the bed every night, often several times a night. And I had done everything. I'd done diet. I'd done every diet nameable, nutrients, And before I went to the mainstream Bell pathway, I wanted to see if there was an emotional holding of fluid balance, fear, stuff going on. And so I took her for that, and we went on that journey. And what ended up coming out at the other side of that was my daughter's anxiety. And I had never tuned into her anxiety before because she masks it so beautifully with confidence. And she internalizes it so much. And as soon as Rebecca had picked up on the nuances of how she manifests her anxiety, I could see it instantly how it played out.
How interesting.
So interesting. And the interesting thing was that when we went on this journey, I was going at it just from purely wanting this bedwetting to sort out, which it mediated it, but in the end we combined it with the bell and then it worked beautifully. But what happened on the path to getting there was we discovered Jade's anxiety. It completely disappeared, which I know sounds ridiculous because you think once anxious, always anxious. But I'm not kidding. She was a completely different kid.
Wow.
She went from being introverted in the classroom to struggling academically to teary at home, like just not coping very well, to all of a sudden free-for-all, light my fire everywhere in this world, shine my brightest light everywhere. Like, it's extraordinary. And
I would totally believe it.
Her reading, all of a sudden jumped up like 10 reading levels, like just extraordinary stuff. And she also, which I may have mentioned previously, I'm not sure, sucked her thumb still. And that disappeared.
Wow.
It disappeared. I wasn't even going there. Anyway, I'm rambling on now. Anyway, my point is, and then I've had some sessions with Rebecca, and she is just gifted at getting to the soul, spiritual, and body stored emotional belief systems that are limiting you and holding you back. And then, working with those. Anyway, so Rebecca came to our retreat. And we'd spent the whole morning doing belief system stuff and working women through all these processes. And most of the women there had never experienced a kinesiology balance before. And Rebecca just did 10-minute sessions on these women. And every single woman walked out of there different. One of them, I looked at her, she looked like she had a complete, like she had a facelift. Her face wasn't red, amazing. It wasn't blanched, she was totally rooted and calm.
Walking on air, kind of.
Yes. Yeah. Another woman walked out to me and said, oh my God, that thing, when you said, when did that belief system happen? And I couldn't remember. I got on the table and she instantly went, what's this? Like, just amazing stuff. The other one went, I have such a sore back, I can never get off those tables. She said, I leapt off. I can't even, what? Where did that back pain even go? Like, just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's one of those things that you often don't believe until you experience it yourself, or you see it happen with somebody really close to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, on that, my husband has been, kind of complaining of a really sore throat and a lot of kind of colds and recurring flu type stuff for ages. And he's been great. Like, he's been seeing a chiropractor and, and whatever, antibiotics or not, I don't really mind at this point. If he needs to have them, he needs to have them. But he's resisting and he wants to kind of tackle it naturally and look at diet and all that kind of stuff. And the next thing I said was, why don't you try some energy healing? Why don't you go look at stuck energy? Because at this point, I'm really of the belief that most disease, all disease has an emotional manifestation. And he went. And
I'm so impressed that he went.
Because, it can be quite challenging if you're not at all that way minded. And he said, she went back to 7. So what happened when you were 7? She was quite interested in that. He's like, oh, that's when my parents divorced. And he's oldest of 3 boys, parents divorced. And that's when it was identified that he's started to create ulcers in his mouth, which he's had recurring ever since.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it? And he has just reflected a lot on it since then. Like, it's been really, really interesting. So,
as in he's had some epiphany moments.
Yeah, and just I think he's reflected more on the way that kind of healing works and what that was able to gift him beyond any other kind of paradigm of, investigation or treatment that he's ever done.
That's fascinating.
It really is, yeah. There's just so much. There's so much. We think so much that this world is physical, but my gosh, like, if we were to get a true glimpse of the energetic world, we would be floored. We'd be so humbled by the magnificence of what we don't even see, but yet is so present. And so practitioners who can work with that and really have a great integrity and skill in that are just amazing.
Oh, the absolute gold. Literally. You strike on a good one. Like an amazing homeopath, an amazing acupuncturist, an amazing kinesiologist. They're all energy workers. When you strike on a gold one, oh my Lord, the layers and years of pain and healing they can reveal to you.
The only thing I would say that sometimes, or when I was first on my journey with a kinesiologist, was you go back and you see all these things that manifest when you're young, and it's quite easy to then go into judgment of your parents, like just to think that something was done to you. What's not really explained is that everything's perception. So you're perceiving an event a certain way, which then creates an emotional manifestation in your body. The event wasn't right or wrong, but you perceived it that way, and that's how you've held on to. So what would be useful is more of an expansive explanation of that, so that you don't go into hate on your parents, because it's so easy, right? It's so easy to kind of think that they could have done things better.
Yes,
especially when you feel like you're holding on to something you see that they didn't do enough of.
Yes. So how has having that pain which led to that belief system served you in your life to where you are now? How has it kept you safe? How has it kept you protected? How has it led to the career, the people, the partner? How
did it help you stand on your own 2 feet?
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
Totally.
But that's not entirely what we're talking about. As much as we could talk about that all day.
Yeah.
What we're really talking about today is, because we're kind of heading into the Christmas crazies, and also if you've got kids at school, the number of school activities is probably hitting its, peak right now. As a parent, you're probably pulled in 1,000 different directions. There's so much going on, and there's also that, I think, as a mother,
It's split my life. Like, what?
I know. I've been looking at Jill today, going, how do you do this, man? 3 kids and trying to be here, there, and everywhere. But I think also, as a mother too, heading into Christmas, there's just so much pressure that we, either consciously and unconsciously put on ourselves to really step up, and to kind of make it magical, but also not get so swept up in the commercialism of it, not conform to, how we're told to be. But it's pretty difficult not to, right? Because there's so much kind of ritual and tradition and projection tied up in this time of year.
And it's so emotional, isn't it? Because every single person is faced with their emotional triggers / mirrors of their family that they have to see and that they have to run into and that they have to spend time with and that they have to have at this place or that place or here or there or that time. And so emotional. I feel like December is a roller coaster.
And also, overlaying that is kind of the sense of duty that we get so plugged in by too, I think, and some of that duty you're quite happy to, you quite lovingly do, but there's other parts, even just the kind of ritual of having to buy a gift for however many teachers you've got or however many connections that you have that are, important for your life, so there's that as well. And so I think it's kind of a nice time now to sort of kind of take a step back and figure out life on your own terms. What does it look like? I think sometimes when we get to this point of overwhelm, there can be that tendency to kind of jet off somewhere to a tropical island where no one can find you, or, alternatively kind of,
do
go
everything and be everything.
But what that then creates is kind of, illness, frustration, anger with everybody around you. How do you kind of tune into yourself at this time of year and confidently say no to things you really don't want to do and that aren't right for you, and choose what you do want to do and do that with intention and enthusiasm. So I'm still working on it myself.
I know. I'm waiting for you to continue to do that. I'm like, I'm just going to follow your lead here.
Yeah.
All I keep having flashbacks to actually is last Christmas. Last Christmas was a really big difference for us because the way that it had traditionally been done for however many decades with my husband's family, one of the cousins and myself wanted to radically change how that looked and created a together experience. So in that is every single matriarch of every aspect of that family had their nose put out of joint and had to reframe where they wanted to be, la, 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 la. And I had this mantra that I had stuck on my fridge and I had stuck on my front door and I had stuck on my mirror in my bathroom.
I'm going to become this.
No, seriously. And that mantra was, they, in essence, they acquiesced because we really they had no complaints. Well, the thing that we were offering was really great.
You were creating a win-win.
We were really genuinely creating a win-win. Yeah. But I knew in doing that I was going to bump up against some ruffled feathers, let's say. And there are definitely people within those families that I really have to have extra compassion for, let's say that. And so my mantra was, I can't remember now, but it was something along the lines of, I have deep, rich, authentic connections with those I come into contact with. Or I have deep, rich, authentic conversations with those I come into contact with. And so if it meant that I could turn up without the filters of anger, resentment, and those crusty layers that were preventing authentic, heartfelt connection with that person, or from me really seeing them, or me really offering to them energetically and lovingly who I was, for them to just absorb my magnificence, really, then, that was really going to create some yuck feelings. So I instilled this mantra in my head. Like every day I'm seeing it 20 times a day, this mantra. And I can honestly say it paid me back 100 times in gold. Wow. Like, it was extraordinary. I walked into this, Christmas period really deeply being able to root my consciousness to the person I was having a conversation with. That I didn't feel like in my head, often I would create stories or judgments, not that my perception of what that person was perceiving of me, which then would change the way that I conversed with them or whatever. Yeah. I didn't have that voice anymore. I was able just to be like, whatever, and have compassion. I was able to be gentle with those people I just wanted to be harsh with previously. Wow. It totally changed my Christmas last year, totally.
I remember you at the time, like, you were a little bit nervous about how it was going to unfold. Yeah. But, you were quite determined to create change.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I can honestly say since then, I mean, I've certainly done loads of work, with you since then on belief systems and the mirror and whatever, but my relationship with my in-laws has exponentially shifted in the positive because I don't actually feel internal judgment or conflict when I'm in their space or when I'm conversing with them, because I just I see their magnificence and I feel safe to project mine.
And that's ultimately what it is, because all that anger and frustration and, you know, all that feedback that we get is really because we're not, in some ways, truthfully loving them for who they are. Because so often we create all this ickiness and angst and frustration in our body because they're not conforming to how we think that life should be lived or how we think they should be with us. When in reality, anyone's always only going to live the life that's true for them, like, you know, life by their values. And it's the clashing of values, or values meaning what's most important to you, that's where the frustration comes from. And I guess on the topic of life on your terms, it's becoming really, really clear what's your truth. Yes. You know, what's your life demonstrating is your most important.
And the thing is, with love, what are you unwilling to compromise on? Like, I don't think it has to be you choose not to compromise or acquiesce and you're selfish, heartless bitch versus you do and serve everyone and everything and you're full of love and grace. I don't think that that's a reality-based version of either of those events.
Well, I think, I mean, they're both polarized in some way because it's impossible to expect as a human that we're not going to have our little charges and challenges. That's what goes. And especially in families. So the perfection is the dysfunction. You know, like, I think as long as we think it needs to be happy families and there's going to be no disagreements on Christmas Day, then God, you're setting yourself up for a nightmare, because that's not how people work and that's not how families work. And I think probably because people have such an idyllic view of how Christmas should be, the more idyllic and one-sided your view about Christmas being perfect and everybody getting along and that there's no one gets drunk, no one raises their voice, there's no disagreements. We all know that that's not reality, right?
Yeah, but it's how you go with intent, I think.
Yeah,
How you walk into those. Yeah, no, exactly. It can never be perfect. I totally hear what you're saying. And so looking at those challenges with a certain amount of grace, I suppose, really isn't it anyway. But it's also, how do you create intent and purpose within yourself? Because the intent and purpose that you're projecting and perceiving that lens through will change your experience of exactly the same event, right?
Yeah, totally.
So why not create the affirmation that says to you how you want to be on that day, or in the weeks leading up to it. And, you know,
asking yourself, what does your ideal Christmas look like for you and your family? You know, starting to unpack for you, you know, setting aside what everybody else wants from me, because that's so much often what it's about. And, you know, you can build up underlying resentment from that, you know, if you feel like you're constantly having to meet everybody else's expectations except your own.
I have had some friends that have said, I'm not dealing with this year, and they've just had their own quiet family Christmas for a day.
And how's that gone for them?
I think it's gone really well for them. They haven't done it every year. It's just been this year we're having time out. But, I mean, the ripple effect of that is hurt and pain for the family that surrounds them. Yeah. But, you know, those people have made that conscious choice, have also been willing to have those discussions with those family afterwards. It's not that we're cutting you out. It's not da-da-da. It's just, this is what's really important to us. And if you want to come to our house and share it with us, we would love you too.
But we're not going to drive halfway across the countryside to...
Yeah. And so I think sometimes drawing those boundaries is completely worthwhile. I think about my perfect Christmas, and if my day can start right, the rest of it I can kind of just let go. Yeah. So we started a family ritual of, my kids are massively early risers, and on Christmas Day it's like seriously 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Is it really?
Oh my God. I can't even get them to stay in bed. Like, it's gotten ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, you know, by 6 o'clock, all of Santa's presents, everything is opened, everyone's done. Nick and I are probably on our second coffee, like. And so what we've done, seriously, what we've done to actually, and there's kind of like this, you know, huge surge of energy, right? And then everyone kind of crashes afterwards. And it's really hard to move from that energy into, come on, get up, leave your toys, let's get going for the day, you know, That really wasn't working well for us. And so we shifted the routine to, we instantly at like 6:30 in the morning, we leave the house. We live right on the beach. So we go to the beach and we spend an hour or two at the beach with the dog, just hanging out. And every Christmas morning, I cannot tell you, I could literally cry tears of gratitude for the perfection
So gorgeous.
of the beach on Christmas morning every single year for the last 4 years we've been doing. I can't even explain to you the perfection of it. Like,
and how nice,
perfection.
because, I mean, there's something so healing and calming and soul cleansing about being in the water.
We literally
especially
swim.
on
we
a day
play
like
in the
that.
water, we splash, we, you know, throw the frisbee, we kick the footy, you know, like everybody's happy because everyone you're passing, you're going, Merry Christmas!
Yeah, it's a great way to start
Like,
the day.
it's actually just amazing. And, you know, the sun comes up and it's just, sometimes it's been misty and you feel like you're on some sort of mystical feminine goddess island. I don't know, something amazing. And, you know, sometimes it's just been so perfectly crystal clear Thailand water. Like, just, I can't even explain to you. And so by the time we get back from that and it's time to get dressed and head out for lunch, everyone's vibed. Everyone's ready. No one's stressed.
I mean, like, isn't that not the perfect grounding to a day like that?
It's perfect because we then rock up and I'm kind of then like, whatever, I've done my thing for the day.
My cup is full.
Yeah, I could just go with the flow now, no worries. You know, whatever it is that, you know, my mother-in-law wants to have on her special occasion, it's fine, I can let it go because I've done my thing. Then my job becomes turn up and be authentic.
Yeah.
Shine your light.
And you're so much more able to do that from a place of feeling full as opposed to feeling empty
Resentful.
and
Yeah, totally.
depleted.
Totally.
Which can so easily be the case for parents after, you know, having crazy kids high on excitement, you know, for hours of opening presents and eating whatever.
That's exactly right. So look, that's what we do. So I do set an affirmation or 2 or 3 every December in the lead-in for how the intent I want to set for myself. I do get very clear on what priorities I have. Is it social? Is it particular friends? Is it particular feelings about those connections? What's my priority moving into it? And then I always do the Christmas morning when we go to the beach.
I think that's really, really wise to have that kind of outline or framework for December, because I think you can get so easily swept up in what everybody else wants and, you know, how you might think, in inverted commas, things should be. To get really clear on a couple of things that you want to feel and create and kind of achieve, I suppose, out of that month is so powerful.
It is like a to-do list almost, I suppose, isn't it?
But it's a to-be list, isn't it?
Oh, that's good, to-be list. What is your December to-be list?
Because everybody's got a to-do list, don't they? And it's as long as they are.
I love that, Bridget. I feel like that's something you should post on Facebook.
What's your December to-be list?
Yeah.
And I think to be in yourself, but also how do you want to be with your family? Because if we all look back at our own childhoods, you know, I think we can probably go back to some really clear moments of Christmases that in our memories. And that's and, you know, Christmas is a chance to make memories with our children. And this is not to guilt anyone, but asking yourself what kind of memories do you want to create for your children for their Christmas? You know, what does that look like? How do you want them to feel? You know, do you want to create some, you know, magical traditions for them? And also for you, like, you know, how do you make it a time of the month that doesn't have to be, or a time of the year that doesn't have to be all about wringing your hair out and trying to keep up, but trying to find some moments of pause and reflection and intention. This is all good advice for me.
What do you mean?
Oh, it's interesting. I did a little course last year, which was all about like loving being a mother at Christmas and looking at what my own experiences were as a child of Christmas and therefore what I wanted to create for my son. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to Christmas because he's 2.5, you know, and he already gets the concept of Father Christmas.
2.5 is fun.
Yeah, you know, he's already asking about writing a letter. He's already written his first letter to Father Christmas, which was on like this, you know, like little packet of raffle tickets. Like, and he's like scribbled all over it with a texter, and that's his letter, you know. So it's a beautiful, formative time, I think, for him and the magic of Christmas. So it is a nice time, I think, as a mum to think about that, like to think about how we want that month to look and how we can kind of check out of the craziness and get really clear on, okay, that's how the rest of the world's doing it, or that's how my friends are doing it, or that's how, you know, we're being told to do it, but this is how I want to do it, and this is how, you know, I want my family to feel on Christmas.
And it's sitting in that power, really, isn't it? It's not needing to stomp your feet and stand your ground and yell, scream and aggressively hold that space, because then you're acting out of...
And, I mean, that's when you get to that point because you haven't listened to the red flags that have been coming up for you before that point, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got a few weeks before we get to the craziness. I'm nowhere near having even started Christmas shopping, unlike some people who are super organised. And maybe being organised is one way to mean that you can step more gently into it. But I guess starting to feel into what you're thinking about it already. You know, are you thinking about it as a, you know, like massive headache, it's just all too hard, or your kids are already getting ratty, or, oh, my family's already putting pressure on me? How can you start to unpack those thoughts and create a little bit more movement or freedom for yourself in that? And I guess start to ask yourself some questions about how it might be able to be a little bit different if you're really not happy with the way things are unfolding, in a way that also is respectful and a win-win for the other people around you. Because it doesn't, as soon as we think that we have to do things one way, well, we're not really seeing a whole picture, because there are always options to make things work for everyone. It's just about getting a bit creative, as you were, you know, in thinking about how you could create last Christmas the way that you did.
I love this idea of the win-win, actually. It really fits so beautifully into the realm of the seductress, doesn't it? Is how do you create joy and a want to, a desirous feeling for the thing that you want that person to do, be, or experience, right?
I mean, a win-win really comes about when you ask yourself enough quality questions about, first of all, what you would most like, and then how can you communicate what you would most like in the values of the person that you would like to go along with that plan with you. So, and that's really about, okay, well, what's most important to them, and, you know, what do they most value in their life? Okay.
So, which will be what they're displaying. So career, family, finances, I don't know, learning,
any of those kind of key areas. So what
you see them doing in their lives.
So what are the first things they love to converse to you about? How do they spend their time most? You know, if it's about Christmas, are they talking to you 3 months out about what they're cooking? Are they talking to you 3 months out about the decorations, or is it the people that they've invited, or is it the presents that they're buying for your children?
Ooh, pretty. Good, yeah.
What is it? What are the things that are... Because, you know, my father-in-law, he's massively into Christmas, and like obsessively so. And so for him, like for the family not to be together on Christmas is just like heartbreaking. But it gets uncomfortable for us, and we kind of resent it sometimes. So we know that to do things on our terms, it really needs to be still giving him that sense of Christmas, right? And giving him all those family connections and those rituals, and, you know, still giving him that opportunity to have all those things, but in a way that also works for us. And so it's really about, well, what are those things that are most important to them about Christmas, and how can you fit in with those without negating what's true for you, and without negating the Christmas that you want to create for yourself and your family. Because it's not impossible to make it work for both of you.
There's always other options.
There always is. It's just about asking yourself enough questions around how to create that. You know, what's most important to them, what's most important to me? How can we find this middle ground that means both parties feel like they've had their cup filled, you know, and feel like that they've had their values met.
Seduced.
Yeah. You know, so I think that just looking at Christmas in a little bit of a different way to see how can we all get our needs met and, you know, have a beautiful Christmas.
Yeah.
Without the crazies.
Yeah, it sounds idyllic though, doesn't it, to say that, how do we all get our needs met?
Yeah.
Have a beautiful Christmas. But it comes right back to how you're living your daily life, doesn't it? Is setting the intent for that day or that week or that month. Maybe even a month is too long. Maybe sometimes even if you're really struggling with this concept, it's just doing a day at a time. So, you know, the night before or the morning of, before you get out of bed, waking up and thinking, what is the tone and the feeling and the vibe that I want to experience and give out today? Or, you know, what is the feeling of what I'm in my achieving? What is the feeling of what I'm going to get done today?
And also, you know, a little mental check too is in terms of, are what you're planning to get done in a day, is it realistic? Because as long as you're expecting, you know, miracles from yourself in terms of, you know, time and things working out, the more unrealistic those activities are, the more frustration you're going to create in yourself, and
the more challenge.
And the more, you know, your kids are going to play out because you're just trying to get stuff done and they just want to slow down and chill out and play games, you know, and you're trying to go, come on, I'm going to get stuff done. So I think it's really about getting really clear on what's actually achievable in this day and what energy do I want to bring to it.
And if you're getting to that point of that frustration, recognising what? That you've set too high a bar, or where would you go with that?
I think it's looking at your list, because as much as we're talking about to-be lists, to really get stuff done, you know, you kind of need to chunk your day into a to-do list, right? Just kind of get a sense of what you need to achieve in your day.
Yeah.
Leave a bit of wriggle room, because if you have children, the reality is stuff doesn't always go to plan.
Yes.
So I think it's just reflecting on, okay, what's my frustration here? You know, is it really that the kid is being a shithead, or is it in fact that they are just being a child who has needs, but those needs are directly kind of not working out with your list.
And in that moment, are they calling you into something else that you're actually wanting to honour?
Yeah.
Right, because they're your mirror.
Yeah,
totally. So what are they trying to drag you back into that you're almost kicking and screaming away from?
Yeah.
And why are you kicking and screaming away from it? It's because you really don't want to do it, or because you feel that you have to, should do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and where's that coming from?
Because that's the split, isn't it? That's the difference between imposed or expected should-tos and authentic to-dos.
Yeah. You know, what's real and what's injected.
Yeah.
You know? What's you and what's your mother? I can't believe I just called my son a shithead. I've actually never done that before.
It's okay, let it go.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've done it several times.
And I probably still got a charge on my mum. I love her, but I'm just not as clean as her in manners. My Christmas is not going to be as organised, but that's okay. It's going to be organised differently.
I was going to say, is organisation in that way what you value, though?
It's not really. Well, I don't know. We're getting off track. But yeah, I think it's such a big topic, and I don't know, like I kind of still feel like Christmas hasn't really like arrived yet. Maybe I'm kind of like checking out because I don't want to own the fact that it's big, you know, it's here, it's nearly happening, but and the fact also that I got married at the end of November, so for me that in that year Christmas was like, what Christmas?
Yeah, I bet. Because have you got a wedding anniversary?
Yeah, end of the month. But we hope that there has been some, different perspectives offered there in terms of how you can start to claw back a little bit of how you want things to go for your December and, I guess, more broadly, your life in terms of looking at, okay, what's true for me versus what am I expecting myself to fit in for everybody else? Because I think Christmas is almost like just a vehicle for throwing a lens on the frustrations that we often have in our own lives and our own relationships.
It magnifies them, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like the monthly women's cycle, like the Red 10 episode that we did, isn't it? Is you put up, and then you go, well, now I've got my period.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm drawing a line. Yeah. It's almost kind of like
Christmas is like the period.
Okay, maybe I should better step too far. But it's kind of that concept, isn't it? It magnifies and intensifies what's already sitting there, that it's easy enough for you most of the time to sweep under the rug or, get on with. But it's all of a sudden this crescendo, this intensifying that brings it sometimes erupting up to the surface. But ultimately what it is an even bigger red flag for what you're not honouring the rest of the year.
And what you're not giving space for, it just shines a light on those things, doesn't it? It's kind of, you can't escape it.
No. So with this Christmas, what I would love is for all of us to set our to-be list for December, to create our intent, affirmation, and the how-to for us individually to shine our light, our authentic vibrance openly without fear and judgment and criticism to all of those that we come into contact with, because the set of things that allow you to do that sets your affirmation and your intent for your to-be list. And
I mean, that's just so powerful in terms of the ripple that creates. Like, not only in terms of how that makes you feel and be and kind of flow through that month, it's also how it gives your children and your partner and those closest to you permission to do the same. which I really love.
I love that too. It's a win-win. Just confusing everybody.
Love a win-win.
So once again, today's episode was brought to you by Live, Balance, Grow Kinesiology with Rebecca, and we would love for you to look her up, and we will pop her details on the Facebook page. And to get in contact with Bridget, it's at suburbansandcastles.com, and you've got no movies now until
January. Yeah, January. Yeah. So that's a yoga film, actually, which is really going to be a great way to start the year.
Ooh, talk about setting intent and energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And to get in contact with me is at the moment on Facebook and Instagram with The Pleasure Nutritionist or through Nourishing the Mother.
Until next week, we'll see you when we continue to peel back the layers.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.